Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 241 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcomed an MC and filmmaker from South Carolina. His name is Chris Mohead. Chris is another artist that Dom introduced me to, so thank you to Dom once again for getting us connected. This was a really cool conversation this week. We not only talked about Chris's experience in music, starting his own studio, and his recent album Derado. We also talked about what he's learned through filmmaking, some of his inspirations, some TV shows and movies that are some of his favorites as well. It was really cool to discuss a different art medium that we haven't really touched on a ton in this on this podcast. So thanks to Chris for stopping by. And with a lot of different short films and things in the works still, I'm excited to see what Chris does. He has a lot of big plans for the future, and I can just tell he has an overall creative spirit, and I appreciate him for taking time out of his weekend to join me on this episode. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So welcome everyone to episode 241 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today we have an awesome MC and a filmmaker as well. Based out of South Carolina. Everybody, please welcome Chris Mohead to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How you?
I'm doing great, man. Having a great Sunday afternoon, and thanks again for joining me. And usually to start off every episode, we have the guest give some background. You know, how did you get involved in the arts, music, filmmaking, all that good stuff, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, like you said, my name is Chris Mohead. I've been writing and rapping since I was like 5 years old, but I really started recording in high school, and then I started my own company, my own record label when I was like 25. So yeah, and my main thing is music, but I've always like written films, and I used to do like little comedy skits and stuff like that. And I have one film that I'm starring in on Amazon Prime called Vivid. So excuse me, y'all can check that out. And that's my main thing, is
awesome.
Music and films.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I didn't know about the record label too, so that's pretty awesome. And how did that kind of come to be then? Was that just something you wanted to kind of venture off into?
Well, yeah. Originally, the idea was I like doing music and film, so I want to make my own company, and I wanted to start my own YouTube page and maybe like make my own show where I release new music, drop a music video, drop a comedy skit. Like that was the original idea. But when I started that, my dad became my business partner, and he was like, you should probably build your name up first as a hip hop artist. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you're right. So I went real hard with open mics and performing and stuff like that. And been kind of doing that ever since. But as the whole thing started, because I was trying to find one platform or one way to encompass all my ideas. Yeah.
And it's an incredible way to do that too, because you're kind of able to control everything in-house too, which is a great thing. Exactly. So congrats on that, because I think that's an awesome venture to have, an awesome thing to do for sure. And I definitely want to touch on music to kind of get it going. You did drop a project called Derado this year, and I'm interested to know more about the process on that project, recording-wise, writing-wise. Like, kind of tell us what went into it and the story behind it.
So Derado, originally I was working on an album with like a storyline and everything like that, but then I kind of wanted to do something lighter, I guess, like less songs, less of a narrative through line, and just wanted to make dope songs, and just put them out and try different things. Like I got a song on there, Vanilla Sky Freestyle. I sampled Radiohead. I sampled Radiohead, their song Everything in the Right Place. It was just like I was just trying different things, and and it felt like gold. It felt good to me. That's where the title Derado came from.
Yeah.
So
how do you think you describe your overall process of even like song creation in general, like with the writing and with kind of bringing everything together? Do you kind of like start out with you need to hear an instrumental and then kind of write to it and see where it goes, or you're just always writing and kind of trying to match the energies with certain songs you hear?
Honestly, man, no two songs are the same.
Yeah.
Like I have sometimes the words come to me and I have to most times they come to me while I'm working. Like I have to be physically moving and doing something, and it'll come to me and I have to break off and just like write the words down. Other times I'll get beats sent to me, or I might make a beat and the beat will inspire the music, or inspire the words. And a lot of times, like when I'm working on an album, I like to write out a storyline and figure out how I can break up the storyline into songs, and I'll do it like that.
Yeah.
But really, however it comes is how it's gonna come.
Yeah.
It's
nice because you don't really lock yourself down on like telling yourself you have to make songs a certain way too. You can kind of just let it come to you and see where it goes too. So, and you said you produce a little as well. So like, do you produce a ton of your own stuff, or do you work with others as well?
I used to produce all my own stuff, but I don't know how to play anything, so I sampled a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I want to have stuff without samples in it too. So I have three other producers. One of my best friends, he goes by Randy Solaire, and he produces most of my stuff nowadays. But I have a couple more go-to producers that but I always, with Randy, I like to lock in and be in the studio with him.
Yeah.
Like, we try to craft something together.
Yeah. Is that how you'd say you kind of prefer to do things, is more in person as opposed to like sending things back and forth through email or text?
For sure, yeah. I definitely rather do it in person, like so we can be on the same page, we can catch a vibe, and like there's more of a chemistry there,
Yeah.
Because growing up, I thought that's how it always was done. Like when you listen to a song, but I didn't find out till later that people send stuff back and forth.
Yeah. It's crazy because really even like going back 10, 15 years ago is kind of when that all started. But before that, it was all in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. You're right.
I think it's like the beauty of having both options too, because you can like do the virtual thing if you want, and it allows us to connect with a lot of people. But I agree with you where it's more of like the chemistry in person is just better, and you can get things done in real time too, which is great. Yeah. So you don't have to, because I've been in collaborative situations where I'll send somebody something, and it'll be like a few weeks till I even hear back from them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it makes the process way longer to kind of get through it.
Yeah, that's true. But also, now that I'm thinking about it, it also helps because sometimes people take longer to write, to come up with ideas, and stuff like that. So like that does help. It is beneficial in that aspect, like where they can take their time and actually flesh it out and then send it back.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you said though about kind of just letting things come naturally. And I think regardless of like how it's done, as long as you're letting the natural process kind of go the way it's supposed to, you'll be good. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely want to shift to what you do in filmmaking, because you have a lot of short films on your YouTube. You've done a lot of things. Like you said, you're in another movie that's on Amazon Prime right now. So tell us about that whole world and kind of how it compares to doing music, as it is another form of art. Like, how does that work?
It's a lot harder right now, but I think it's just because I haven't done it as much. Like, I've been doing music a lot longer. I've always loved filmmaking since I was playing with my toys and making them act out scenes. The biggest challenge, I think, for me is directing, because it's basically like wrangling people in and trying to get everybody on the same page. Answering a million questions, solving a bunch of problems. That's basically all it is. You're just problem solving, one problem after another. It's good. It's a fun process. But I just love like bringing an idea from your brain to the page to the screen. And I have 2 short films. I got a bunch of comedy skits, but I got like 2 actual short films, and I plan on doing more. I have to. I get better every time, so I have to keep on doing it. But again, like I have to let the ideas come to me, But I plan on doing some auditions too, real soon.
Awesome. And as far as because we'll kind of go like the parallels here, and I asked you about the process of music. So what does the process look like when you're going to start a new project? I assume it's a much longer process because you have to write a lot more and there's more detail involved. So, like, is there a real starting point ever, or is it just kind of one idea leads to another, and then you end up with, like, a script, like a full script for something?
Well, everything starts with, for me at least, it starts with the 3-act structure. You know, every movie has a 3-act structure, and it always starts with. It usually starts with just an idea, like something will spark in my head, something interesting, and I'll try to figure out how can I make this interesting to where there's a person who wants something. What gets in the way of him wanting that, and how does he overcome that to get what he wants, or she? And yeah, but it always just starts with a spark. Like it's always just, it could be a conversation, it could be anything. It just, you know.
Yeah. Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Is there a moment where you know that an idea is going to eventually become like something bigger? Like, for example, if you write an idea, do you know right then and there if it's going to be something or not? If that makes sense.
Not right then and there. It's you take the idea and you flesh it out as much as you can, and a lot of times you'll hit a wall.
Yeah.
A lot of times you hit a wall and you're like, I don't know if I can take it any further than that. Like, this is kind of, you get stuck and you can't think of an ending, or you can't think of a middle part, so you might move on to something else that you can stretch further.
Yeah.
You know, that's with music and films.
Yeah. And do you ever have anybody kind of, sitting in there with you, or even just kicking ideas back and forth with other individuals that are kind of helping you out? Or you're just kind of going things on your own and see where it lands?
Sometimes I do, but I prefer to work alone.
Yeah.
Actually, like my ideas I prefer to not have so many opinions. Because I think I'm sensitive to criticism, and a lot of times people will criticize the idea and before they even see what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So I prefer to flesh it out some kind of way, give you some type of sample of what I'm trying to do, and then I'll show it to other people and get them on board.
Yeah.
To help.
Yeah. And no one can execute your vision as well as you can. I think that kind of goes with everything that we do. So I definitely can see why that would be your preferred method as well. I don't think I've ever asked this, because I usually talk about influences musically, favorite artists, favorite songs, what have you. Let's talk about movies a little bit, because I see you got the Avengers poster back there. You got Star Wars. You got a bunch of stuff. You got music there too. But talk to me about some influences in filmmaking. Could be directors, movies. What are some of your favorites?
Tarantino is probably number one.
Yeah.
When I was in art school, and I learned all about Stanley Kubrick, so I kind of fell in love with him. And obviously Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or just Steven Spielberg, they have a way of making great films. Because when you think great classic films, a lot of times we think about the heavier stuff. You might think about I don't know, The Godfather, Schindler's List. You think about heavier stuff, but I like high art action movies, like Mad Max. Mad Max Fury Road, or like I said, Indiana Jones. Just Steven Spielberg is a master of making high art, but still making it fun, making it for you. He makes his movies for the audience.
Yeah.
Y'all are actually, they have the certain beats where you laugh, or where he just knows how to work the audience. And it's the same with Avengers movies too. it's fun, but it's still like high art in a sense.
Yeah. I saw that he did, I think this was like 2 years ago, there was a movie about his childhood that came out. I think he worked on it.
It's
Yeah.
called Fablemans. Yeah.
How was that?
I didn't see it. I
No?
didn't see it actually. I want to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard good things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd seen that. That looked very intriguing to me. Because like you said, he's one of the most like celebrated directors we've had, like in general in filmmaking. So, and he's been a part of just so many different things too. So it's pretty incredible. And for 2024, like, do you have a favorite movie that came out this year? Something that you saw that was like kind of stood out? To me, I would say it wasn't a great year for movies. That's just my opinion. I saw some things that I enjoyed, but I didn't see a lot of things that I enjoyed this year, personally.
Nah, I didn't make it to the movies much this year.
No.
I saw a movie this year that came out last year that I really enjoyed. It was called Poor Things.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah, Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. In it, and I thought that was a really dope movie.
Yeah.
I didn't, like you said, I didn't see much this year. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I didn't see much that came. No, that wasn't even this year. I was about to say Mission Impossible, but I think that was 2023 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see much this year.
Yeah, to me it's kind of been, and I'm not a huge movie person to begin with. I'm kind of off and on with movies. I really only watch things that really intrigue me. Like if it really piques my interest, then I'll go see it. A lot of my friends and like my brother, for example, they see a lot of movies. They don't care if it looks good or bad. They'll just go see the movie. Yeah. So I guess I've just had a different perspective on movies of like it has to really pique my interest to see it. So
I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid and movies was like $3, I would go every single weekend. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to go. I just like the experience of going and seeing it on the big screen.
Yeah. How about
nowadays, it's different.
Yeah, and the prices are pretty high too. A lot of places. And how about TV shows? Because I know shows are a lot bigger too now because of streaming and because there's just a lot more content out there. Are there any shows you've been checking out?
Recently, my favorite show was probably Atlanta. I know it's not airing anymore, but
great show.
I rewatch that maybe once a year.
Yeah.
I can't think of any new shows that I've been watching, but yeah, I love Atlanta.
Yeah.
Number one favorite show of all time is The Simpsons. I've always been a big Simpsons fan, and obviously like Family Guy, American Dad. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot more that I watch. I just can't think of that off the top of my head right now.
There's so many shows out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, I feel like there's almost more shows than movies in a lot of ways.
Oh, actually, recently I just watched there's a documentary about Vince McMahon.
Oh, that's
like
pretty cool.
8 episode on Netflix. It was really good.
Yeah.
I thought that was really
I think my friend might have watched that because he's a big WWE guy. He's a big wrestling guy.
When I was younger, but it was fire. I like it.
Yeah. He's probably tapped in on that for sure. But yeah, I love Atlanta. Atlanta's a great show. And I think the best part about Atlanta is they ended it at a good point where they didn't make it go too long. I love shows that kind of it's like 3 or 4 seasons and every episode just hits. You know what I mean? And then it's done. I think that's great. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I love that he kept it, like you said, short and sweet. Every season is like 10 episodes. Only 4 seasons. Like he didn't want to overstay his welcome.
Yeah. For sure.
I love that show, man.
For sure. And as far as, kind of combining all this stuff together, both creative sides, music, filmmaking, everything else, how would you say you kind of keep inspiration involved, like on the day-to-day, like hobbies, anything you do every single day to kind of recharge, reset, and just, have a better day overall?
I consume a lot of, TV, movies and stuff like that for inspiration. Playing with my son is, it's inspirational, but I think most inspiration comes from conversation, just talking to people, or just like getting outside the house and talking to people. A lot of times I can be very introverted, but I think the best way to find inspiration is to step out, talk to people, engage with people, and then tuck away and be an introvert and just write and create, from what I experienced.
Yeah. For sure. And I feel like the best things can come out of that. You know what I mean? Just being able to go live life, come back, and use that inspiration to make great art. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're down to the last few questions here, and these are ones I ask on every episode. The first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago and maybe give yourself a piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
10 years ago, I would tell myself to create a record label, and I would just do it way earlier. I would tell myself to hit as much open mics as I could, hit up. I would tell myself to trust my creative ideas more, and I would tell myself to not worry about I just have to be better at taking criticism. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between someone giving you a constructive criticism and someone just like dumping their fears on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I tell myself that, like, you don't have to accept that. Like, just because this person says it's gonna be bad or it's not gonna work, you can still try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not criticism. That's just them being afraid and trying to push that on you. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. And 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself in music, film, with the label, everything, really?
I can see myself doing musicals.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
10 years from now, I want to be a director. I will be a feature film director, and I want to make like hip hop musicals.
That would be awesome.
I think that would be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if you make it to Broadway or you do tours. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So. Yeah. And do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
I want to say, don't let somebody who don't have your vision try to give you advice. Again, don't take advice from somebody if they're not where you are, or if they haven't tried what you're trying to do. Don't take advice from them. Like, trust yourself, trust inward, trust God, and work hard. It's not easy. No one's gonna come and save you. No one's gonna come in and discover you. You got to put in that work. You got to grind, and you got to work. It's a job.
Yeah.
You know, that's the advice I have for everybody.
Absolutely, man. Well, Chris, I got to say again, thank you for joining me today. That's all I have for you. But again, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're doing awesome work. And I'm excited to, stay tapped in with everything you got coming up. I follow your page now, so I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of cool stuff coming from you soon. And if you ever want to come back, man, let me know. You're always welcome. Door's always open. So.
For sure, bro. Thank you, man. It was great.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Thanks, guys, for listening today. That was episode 241. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit that support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. And as always, tune in every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/AnthonyChurch24 for more exclusive content. And we'll see you this time next week. Thanks, as always, for listening.